What metrics should you track from 0 to 1 million ARR? Let's find out in today's edition of SaaS Metric School. Welcome, Ben Murray here. So, responding to a subscriber question, and it's a great question. So, let's tackle this. So, the question is, what should I track as I'm starting out? And I like to bucket the stages in the SaaS founder journey from 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to 10, and so on. And I'll cover more of these in later episodes, but let's talk about that 0 to 1 phase. So first, well, we need to select accounting software. And according to my latest tech stack survey, the popular accounting software solutions for SaaS companies, QuickBooks, Xero. So that's where people usually start. What I see in the US is QuickBooks. Outside of the US, Xero for the most part. And then later they transition to a larger, more robust ERP like Sage Intacct, NetSuite. But now some new players coming into the game called Campfire and Rillet. But again, I'd say 9 out of 10 times in my fractional practice, everybody's on QuickBooks. So you start with a lightweight accounting solution. Then who does your accounting? Often I find that the founder is doing the accounting. So just posting all those transactions, sending the invoices, and doing cash accounting. Now, eventually, as you get busy, you should transition this to a bookkeeper who specializes in SaaS companies. I have 2 bookkeeping firms that I partner with. So if you want those referrals, let me know. Email me at ben@thesaascfo.com. But eventually you need to outsource that so you can have a good close process so it can be faster and more accurate. Next, building your accounting foundation. So we can't just take that native chart of accounts that comes out of that software, out of that accounting software. That is the start, but we have to satisfy our accounting foundation. So we have to have the right revenue stream. So this gets to the chart of accounts and the general ledger structure in the chart of accounts. So we need subscription general ledger accounts. We need, if we have usage, professional services, and so on. So it's very important not to mix your revenue streams, commingle your revenue streams, that we have the proper revenue categories in place so we can code those invoices to the right spot. Really important to get that right. I cover that in my blog and my academy, the proper SaaS P&L setup, and that's covered elsewhere. But make sure revenue categories are clean. And then your expense structure. I really like to focus on people-related expenses first. So that's wages, taxes, benefits, bonus, commission, and then contractors. We're not commingling contractor expenses with employee expenses and keeping consultants, freelancers separate because we're going to look at that differently on our chart of accounts. So building that accounting foundation, that correct chart of accounts is important for SaaS companies. And then cash or accrual accounting. Now, usually we all start out cash, which is fine. And then we move over to accrual accounting. And usually I say around 3 million ARR is when you have to get really serious about your accounting, go full accrual, put revenue recognition in place, and so on. So we have that consideration, cash or accrual accounting. Now, separate from bookkeeper, it's always good to have a good tax advisor on hand, which eventually usually is separate from your bookkeeper. And then tracking your bookings. So of course, we're just starting out depending on your pricing model. But if you're in that go-to-market motion where you're sending contracts, having customers sign things, or even, if it's a low price point, we need to track how many new customers we're signing up, what type of revenue we're signing up, that ARR services, etc., the date, the customer name, just so we can have good trackings in place. Because often I see that bookings are just not tracked well, even if we have a CRM system. So track that bookings. Now, if you are a self-service PLG, they just sign up through your application. We're going to drive your bookings through your MRR waterfall and MRR schedule, which will come later on. So track your bookings, very important if you have that type of go-to-market motion. Now, finally, getting to what metrics should you track from the 0 to 1 million ARR phase. And if we think about my 5-pillar SaaS metrics framework, pillar 1 is growth, pillar 2, retention, pillar 3 is your margin profile, pillar 4, your financial profile, and pillar 5, efficiency, both go-to-market and org efficiency. And we move from left to right as we scale and become bigger. So our first focus on metrics tracking is growth. So where are we getting our new customer growth from? Where is existing customer growth from? How many logos or users are we signing up? And, so that's pillar 1. And then pillar 2, eventually, all right, we're signing up customers. What's our retention? How many customers are we keeping? How many customers are we losing? How much revenue are we retaining in the form of gross revenue retention? And then gross revenue retention, plus net revenue retention, which is GRR plus expansion revenue. And eventually that becomes important. So thinking about that, because these other metrics will take shape once we have enough volume of data flowing through our business. So just, there are a lot of things to consider, of course, on the way from 0 to 1, but just some initial thoughts, to just get started on the right foot. And it's always, of course, in the beginning, cash is king, and just have good, clean accounting from the start. Close your books on time. Don't wait 3 months to close your books. Just have good accounting discipline and setting up that accounting foundation. So I hope you enjoyed today's edition of SaaS Metrics.